Hey, welcome back to Performance Starts Within. In today's episode, I'm going to run through how we create all of our content for the month in 45 minutes or less. Now, I want to be really clear with this. We have a really specific strategy that we follow every single month to make sure we can maximize our content days because we don't have a lot of time in our business to be able to do it. And so I'm going to run through exactly how we're doing it for our podcast, for our social content, and also the other platforms in which we're using at the moment to build that personal brand from zero. If you've tuned into some of our episodes before, you know that I'm starting my business from absolute scratch, zero revenue, all over again from a creative agency I've had before. And so we're creating from the ground up, and I'm going to talk to you about exactly how we're doing that. But before we jump into the episode today, I wanted to give you a bit of a life update on what's been happening this week. And so this week we launched our podcast, and whilst we don't have all the data to show you right this second because it is only launch week and launch day, I wanted to go through some of the strategies we've had because we have hit the charts pretty well the day that it launched. We're sitting next to people like Dan Martell, the Lazy CEO, the Hormozis, and we're slowly growing to the top. And I want to show you exactly what we were doing behind the scenes in our marketing to make sure that we're able to scale to the top to build that brand recognition, that brand awareness, so that we can get our name and our voice completely out there into the world, especially starting from zero. Now, the way that we did this is through a really, really good launch strategy with a few different key points. We obviously have our podcast that we've recorded in studio. We've recorded them on video so you can see exactly what we're doing. We are able to take some of those videos and repurpose it into multiple different forms of content, both video and also written. And we've got specific channels that we also publish it across so that we are able to get seen across multiple things really simply. But for you to make it super simple, let's peel it all the way back so that you can potentially do something like this for yourself if you're looking at launching a podcast or even just trying to build your personal brand. So the first thing that we did is work out what was the day that we wanted to launch and work our way backwards. So we do this in kind of like a launch cycle or a pitch cycle or a content cycle. And so we wanted to make sure that today, launch day, we had everything absolutely ready to hit go on a few key platforms. So we wanted to make sure our Spotify and our Apple podcast was up and running, and also a YouTube channel for the video, mainly on launch day so that we could publish our podcast. We're using these as our longer form content. And when I say long form, this is the content that you use to build trust with your audience. People will get to know your voice, exactly how you speak, and they're going to start to binge and listen to you on a longer scale as well. So we wanted to make sure that that was one of our hero pieces of content starting our business again, mainly because one, we're short on time to create content, but also we wanted to build trust really quickly with our audience as well. So our hero piece is our podcast, and we're going to publish that across multiple platforms. Having it on video means that we can then give it to lots of different platforms, and our VA, which we've hired an editor to crop it up into short form to publish across social channels. So things like Instagram Reels, which automatically go to Facebook. I've linked it together so it does without me doing anything. And also a couple of other places which you can also publish. But if we wanted to make it simple so that you could do something like this, I'd probably pick 3 things for you to do. The first thing I would do is organize a podcast, either your own or jump on somebody else's. I would see if you can record it in a studio like we did so that you could leverage the audio, but also you could leverage the video. And then I would publish those particular ones to your Instagram or your Facebook channels, especially if you are a mindset coach. That's going to be where most of your audience kind of live. So the way that we decided to do our strategy was to use our podcast as our hero. We don't have a lot of time for content creation, so we wanted to maximize the amount of content that we actually captured, and we're able to then repurpose it behind the scenes into multiple different ways. And so I hired a studio for the day so that I could get every single podcast recording done on video. We had the video, the audio. We were able to record multiple episodes with either a guest or a solo, and also allocate time for some rapid fire Q&As in that section as well, so that I could crop that into social content for later. So maximizing the 3 hours or even longer in a studio to capture absolutely everything. And then you know it's done at a level that's quite professional and can be repurposed. From our hero content, the reason I chose podcasts not only for the time was also because people build trust with longer form content. So long form content is things like your written blogs, your emails, or your podcasts. They tend to listen on the go, they get to know your voice. And we wanted to, because we are starting the business from scratch, rebuild that trust with our audience really, really quickly. And part of that is through our podcasts. I also wanted to get a little bit of credibility in the industry because I do want to get into some public speaking in the future. And so this is a really good way to get some portfolios together and some evidence that I can have conversations with people. So that's the podcast piece for you. For you guys, if you are wanting to make it super easy, this is a really good way to do that. You don't have to launch your own podcast, but what you could do is jump on other people's podcasts or organize even a content day where you have 3 hours with a video and audio, and you can start capturing all of that information as well on video and also audio. From our podcast, the next step that we did in our strategy is work out what kind of things we want to take from our podcast to repurpose onto multiple platforms. So super simply, our hero content sits at the top as our main one, and then we funnel it into different places. So the video in its form as a podcast will be published on YouTube. We will also cut clips from our podcast into juicy little sections. Usually we get about 6 clips from one episode minimum from every podcast, and then we can repurpose that into Instagram Reels. We can publish it on LinkedIn, we can pop it on YouTube Shorts, and we can put it out there into the world in multiple different ways to cover that one episode. I always use something called Dropbox for all of my content. And anytime I am editing, I download any videos, I always upload it to Dropbox, again, for time, because it transcribes everything for me. So all I need to do is jump in and copy and paste the transcription. And I use ChatGPT to transcribe as well, or put it into my own words. And I funnel it straight through into there, again, to save time, and also making sure it is able to create content with ease in my tone of voice. And so when we went to launch our podcast, or we knew when we wanted to, I'd worked out how many guests that I would love on the podcast so far. And I listed out some of the guests that we had lined up, made sure I had the studio booked, worked out some of the solo episodes I wanted to talk about, and made sure it was all recorded well in advance so I had time to crop things up, edit, bring it all together. And it doesn't have to be hugely complicated. It could be really, really simple. If you're not able to get into a studio, you could simply set up a camera and have conversations at the camera. You could set it up with a friend. You could jump on Zoom with somebody, or just jump into someone else's podcast as a guest and ask for a copy to be able to create your content. But the way that we bring it all together in our podcast meant that we could do all of this for months and months and months, and not have to be in studio every single week creating content. And so the benefits now in launch week is that we're able to now see some of the fruits of what we've created. So all of some of our reels on some of our guests were created in advance, so they get dropped when episodes get dropped. So it's like a little sneak peek of some of our guests talking with me. I've been releasing some of the Q&A rapid fire videos where I been asked a question and I answer that question. So answering some of those common problems and questions, things that some of your audience want to know about you. And all the way up to launch day, there's been something going out every single day leading up to here to prime them ready, because then they know that there's a podcast coming and things are in motion. And so it will take a little bit of time. The algorithm's getting used to it as well on all the other platforms, because there's different ones for all of them. And so this time around in my business, I wanted to make our marketing so stupidly simple that all I would need to do is turn up in studio, press record, have a copy of all of the audio and the video, and I'm good to give it away to some of my VAs to implement. So if you're like me and you're wanting to streamline some of your marketing and create a really stupidly simple system so that all you need to do is turn the camera on and record, there is a little bit of planning that goes behind the scenes to be able to get to that point. And if you would love that help, I do run things called Marketing in a Day with some of my clients, where we sit down for 6 hours and we build absolutely everything from the start. We will go through some of the problems, the ways in which they can create content, some of the conversations, scripting it out, making sure it's integrated in the background. You'll even get access to my VA to be able to help build things for you and connect it so you don't have to. All you'll need to do is turn up on record day and press go. I'll leave a link in the show notes so that you can have a little bit of look on what that looks like. Otherwise, send me a DM on Instagram if you would love some more information, and stay tuned for some of our future episodes where I'll be releasing a little bit more about what's happening in the business and some other marketing tips. Until next time, catch you in the next one.